In May 2025, Kashmir's fragile peace was shattered by a brutal attack on tourists, killing 26 and reigniting tensions between nuclear-armed India and Pakistan. The tragedy triggered immediate outrage in India, fueling demands for a decisive response and framing the incident as part of a long pattern of cross-border terrorism. India's government, under immense public pressure, vowed to act, seeing the attack as both a national security threat and a test of its resolve. Kashmir's history as a flashpoint, especially after India's 2019 revocation of Article 370, meant the region was already on edge. The aftermath was marked by grief, anger, and instant accusations, with both sides blaming each other before the attackers' identities were even clear. Once again, the world's attention turned to Kashmir, a place where peace is always fleeting and conflict never far away. India responded swiftly, blaming Pakistan-based groups for the attack and launching targeted strikes across the line of control. Framing its actions as preemptive self-defense, India argued it was acting to prevent further terrorism, not as an aggressor. The government launched a diplomatic blitz, presenting evidence to global powers and seeking support by casting itself as a victim of relentless cross-border terror. Domestically, the military's decisive action was celebrated, fueling nationalism and bolstering the government's image as tough on security. Prime Minister Modi's administration projected strength, assuring citizens that India would not tolerate provocation. Internationally, India's narrative aimed to win sympathy and isolate Pakistan, making the case that its actions were both necessary and justified. The message: India would act first to protect its people, and the world should understand why. Pakistan vehemently denied involvement, condemning India's strikes as unprovoked aggression and a violation of international law. Islamabad placed its military on high alert and claimed to have repelled Indian incursions, projecting strength to its citizens and the world. Pakistan's counter-narrative warned that India's actions set a dangerous precedent, undermining the principles of sovereignty and the UN Charter. Diplomatically, Pakistan sought support from allies like China and Turkey, arguing that India was using the attack as a pretext for regional dominance. The crisis unified Pakistan domestically, boosting the military's prestige and reinforcing its central role in national identity. The government extended the army chief's term, signaling ongoing readiness. For Pakistanis, the message was clear. Their military had stood firm against a larger adversary, defending the nation's honor. With fighting paused, India and Pakistan waged a fierce diplomatic battle, each seeking global legitimacy for their actions. India's diplomats argued their strikes were a justified response to terrorism, aligning with the global war on terror. Pakistan countered, warning that India's preemptive doctrine threatened regional stability and violated international law. Most countries urged restraint, avoiding taking sides due to India's economic clout and Pakistan's strategic importance. The world's cautious neutrality left both nations frustrated. India avoided condemnation, while Pakistan felt its warnings were ignored. The diplomatic standoff highlighted the deep divide. India focused on terrorism, Pakistan on Kashmir's unresolved status and sovereignty. The core conflict remained unresolved, simmering beneath the surface. International response was shaped by reputation bias. India's image as a victim of terror versus Pakistan's association with militancy. Western nations, valuing India as a strategic partner, were inclined to accept its justification for military action, despite Pakistan's denials. Pakistan's efforts to portray itself as a responsible actor were hampered by its past, making it difficult to rally global support. Major powers balanced calls for restraint with a desire to maintain strong ties with India. Pakistan's appeals to the UN and demands for justice went largely unheeded, deepening its sense of isolation. The episode reinforced Pakistan's belief that it must rely on its own strength and a few loyal allies. For both countries, the world's response was a reminder that geopolitics often trumps principle. The conflict spilled onto social media, where both sides waged an aggressive information war to shape perceptions at home and abroad. India circulated viral images and stories to reinforce its narrative of Pakistan as a terror sponsor, while Pakistan countered with claims of Indian disinformation and videos highlighting its own military successes. The digital battlefield was chaotic, with propaganda, doctored images, and emotionally charged rhetoric blurring the truth. Old videos were repurposed, and each side's online supporters amplified their nation's message. For the global audience, discerning fact from fiction became nearly impossible. In this new era, the battle for narrative supremacy online was as fierce as any fought on the ground. The 4-day conflict ended not through bilateral talks, but after US intervention, with President Trump claiming credit for brokering a ceasefire. Pakistan welcomed third-party mediation, seeing it as validation of its stance that Kashmir is too volatile for India and Pakistan to resolve alone. India, insisting on bilateralism, downplayed the US role, viewing the ceasefire as a temporary measure rather than a shift in principle. The uneasy peace that followed was quickly threatened when India announced it would not reinstate the Indus Waters Treaty, raising the stakes by turning water into a potential weapon. The core issue, Kashmir's unresolved status, remained untouched, with human rights concerns and political grievances festering. Both militaries emerged stronger, and new points of contention, like water rights, added to the volatility. The ceasefire felt more like a pause than a solution, with the seeds of future conflict already sown. Without real dialogue, the question is not if, but when, the next crisis will erupt.